Hey y'all, we are live and I have a very special guest on my channel. Welcome Lauren the lawyer, my hometown friend.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, so we are talking about the Diddy trial and thank you so much Lauren for just giving your time and your expertise.
No
More so.
problem. Anything for you.
Yeah, thank you. Friend of the channel as well.
Yes.
Also, I just want you to just introduce yourselves for those who don't know you. But look, you are doing the damn thing. Like I can learn some stuff from you. Like you were on TikTok killing it. You started the YouTube channel, killing it there. So yeah, just give us this like introduction and everything.
Well, everybody, I'm Lauren, the lawyer. I am a family law trial attorney. I'm from New Orleans. Made the crazy decision to move to Dallas after I graduated from law school. So I'm licensed in Texas. And I have this huge social media presence that basically just follows my life as a family law trial attorney. I try to educate people on what this looks like when you marry the wrong person. What will your life look like if you have a child with the wrong person? So I kind of scare people a little bit on
Mhm.
my platforms, but who else is going to tell you the truth? Who else? Me. So if you are interested in all my craziness, follow my pages. It's always Lauren underscore the lawyer, and it's serving scandalous on YouTube.
Mhm. Yes, and just side note, I have so many questions later, like on another video about the whole Hallie and DDG thing.
Yeah,
Because I
that
have so
that
many
was
questions.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anywho, we are here to talk about someone else that's toxic, this
Hmm.
Diddy trial. So,
Hmm.
however I feel about this, I just want to know like the ins and outs, like the facts and
Hmm.
just about this trial. So, what do you think about the trial so far? It is ongoing right now. Like it's going
Hmm.
on. Cassie is on the stand as we speak.
Right now, getting
And
cross-examined.
yes. And this is day 4 or
Yeah,
day
4.
4. Okay. So yes, overall, right quick, like, what do you think of this trial? Yeah.
Okay, from the attorney standpoint, because that's the lens that I've been watching this trial from, right?
Hmm.
Great lawyering is going on both sides. And the thing is, I can recognize it because I'm a trial attorney. And I feel like the world is so confused that they have such big opinions because they truly don't understand what's happening here.
Right.
Great lawyering is going on. I definitely think the state will win, and we'll get into that in a second. Oh, I definitely think they'll win. I
Oh.
don't. They'll. The thing is, I don't know if they'll get all three because it's three charges. We can get into those two in a second. But they are, at least to me, they're doing a great job. But I'm also an attorney. So my level of understanding of what's going on, I'm checking the boxes. But there's no attorneys on the jury. So they have to convince those people. But I'm convinced. I'm convinced. When it comes to the defense, they are being very clever. They're doing the best they can with the facts they have. Diddy is not an easy person to represent. They are on a losing end of this, right? But they are doing the best they can. And I know a lot of times people ask, how can you represent somebody that's guilty? It's not about guilt or innocence when you're a defense attorney. That's why most of the time they don't ask their client if they did it. It's not a part of the job. They're there to protect their client's rights. That's what they're doing. And that is what the defense has been doing. They're bringing up very interesting and clever motions. I'm sure everyone else is like just so appalled, but I know exactly what they're doing. They have to reserve Diddy's right to an appeal. So there are just certain things you have to do, even though you know the judge is going to say no. Everybody's doing their jobs.
Hmm. And that's what I've been trying to look at the case as, like, just taking out the morality of it is just like who has the best argument to present to 12 people.
Hmm. The state has a hard job though, because most people don't understand what sex trafficking is. Most people don't understand what RICO is. The other little charge about transporting sex workers across state lines, that's easy to understand. That's
Mhm.
very like just obvious on its face what that means. But those other two, a lot of people don't know what that is. And that's been a very frustrating part about looking at other people's commentary because they keep saying how he is an abuser, he's a freak, but this is not sex trafficking. But if you knew what sex trafficking was, you would have already known that they proved sex trafficking from Cassie's testimony.
Okay. And also, since YouTube is a hating ass bee, we're going to say S, trafficking, and then if you have to say the R word, just R, like, you know.
Gotcha. I would say
you
schmeck.
two be hating. They be hating.
Yes, I'm not
Okay.
trying to get you demonetized. I know how hard it is.
Appreciate you. So what is the goal of the prosecution and what is the goal of the defense?
The prosecution has a very high burden. Their goal is a conviction, but they have the hardest jobs because you are innocent until proven guilty. They have to prove his guilt, right? That's why we don't have at the end of a trial where it says you did it or you didn't do it. That's, like I said, that's not really what we're here for. Can they prove that you did it? So even when we get not guilty verdicts, it doesn't mean that you didn't do it, right? It just means they couldn't prove it. They have to prove it. So their goal and their job is to prove some very high burden charges and charges that most people don't have a clue what they mean, but they think they know.
And it's 3 charges, right?
Yes. The sex trafficking, racketeering, and transporting sex workers across state lines.
Okay. And how many years is he kind of looking at? Did they say that at all?
He's facing life. Racketeering is the max is life. The minimum is 15 years. If he gets found guilty for the racketeering, the minimum is 15 years, but it's 15 years to life. He's facing life in jail.
Okay. And then
but they got to prove it.
Right. And then for defense, all they need is just
protecting his rights.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're there for. They don't have to prove their client is innocent. They're supposed to poke holes. They're supposed to create doubt. Let's just start off with the basics. Let me take you to 101 criminal law, your first year law school. A lot of people don't understand what beyond a reasonable doubt is, right? That's our standard for criminal law here in America. Beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean you have zero doubt, but it means that it's beyond any reasonable doubt that you can have. So what do I mean by that? Let's talk about a trial that everybody knows about, OJ, right? In order to convict him, you have to believe that he did it beyond reasonable doubt. So all doubt in your mind that you think is reasonable, you are so sure that he did it, it's past that level, right? So it doesn't mean that you don't have any doubt, but everything in your mind that's reasonable, you like, I can't look past this. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, it does.
So they're basically, the jury has to say, I don't have to believe 1000% that he did it, but all the reasonable options of every scenario I was given and all the exhibits that I saw, is it reasonable to believe did he do it or if he didn't do it, right?
Right.
So it's not a 100%, you know, it's just, and the reasonable person is such a confusing thing because what I think is reasonable might be different from you, right? So that's why you have 12 people who all have to come to one decision. So if they convict him, they're basically saying, out of all the doubt that I could have had, if I had any doubt left, it was unreasonable. Everything that we feel like he did beyond a reasonable doubt, he did it. He did that shit. Can I
clap? And speaking of which, like the jury, the demographic, I heard it's 8 men, 4 women.
Oh yes, I went down the whole
thing. I saw that on your video.
8 men, 4 women. I talked about all their business. They age, they name, they raise, what they like to do for fun.
So wait, you can look at who the jurors are too?
Well, you know, I got my people.
Oh, okay.
So I had the tea on all the jurors, and I told my followers.
Okay. Does, like, just knowing the demographic of the jurors, does this help or hurt Diddy's case? Do you think?
I'm gonna say hurt. There's 2 jurors that the thing is, there's a couple jurors. I'm really pleased with the jury. I am. They're all older people. If he had a lot of younger people on the jury, I would have been like, yeah, they might side with him a little bit more. I think the youngest juror was 30 something. Like they were millennials and higher. The oldest person was 74. The youngest person was 39, 30 something, right? Okay. There's people with some sense. We didn't have enough life, right? So if you had some younger people, 19, 20, they might have just been a part of that group of people who was like, you know, we ride it with Diddy. The people trying to take him down. These some grown folks. The social worker, I think she's definitely going to give Diddy a problem. The deli, worker, the person who works at the supermarket in the deli department.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think she's going to give him a problem. But you have a lot of smart people on this jury. You have a neuroscientist. Like, these aren't idiots.
Oh, okay.
And smart people tend to make good decisions. And I think that those people are going to be able to understand the case that the state is putting on. I think those people will grasp what sex trafficking is.
Mm-hmm.
And not like, everyone else on the internet that thinks they know and is just already saying that he didn't do it.
Right. Those comments, oh my God. it just be killing me. It's just like, let me just talk to like an expert before I go on here, and talk about this.
Because people think you have to transport people for sex trafficking. Not true at all. Not true at all. But let the people have it, child. Let them have it.
As far as like the jury, like, are they worried about like prosecution? Are they worried about like outside sources, like them looking on? Because they can easily just look at social media and see what people are saying, etc.
I think it's definitely a concern. I think with the group of jurors that they have, they should be less concerned because these are grown people. Like I said, the oldest juror is 74. We're dealing with highly educated people. Some of them are retired from finance. One is a neuroscientist,
Right. Okay, yeah.
So if anything, the defense needs to be concerned because there's so many bad things out there about Diddy. They could pull up any one of those lawsuits and read all the crazy things that people are saying that he's been doing. So I think the defense needs to be more concerned than the prosecutors. I think it'll help the prosecutor's case if people really got to dive into what's being said out there.
Okay, well, let's just get to Cassie's deposition, which is everyone's just talking about it.
Her testimony?
Her testimony, yes. Sorry. So when I was reading it the other day, I was just wondering, what is the prosecution trying to get at right now? And then I saw at the end of it, I was like, okay, she came full circle.
She proved sex trafficking alone in her testimony. The guy who testified on Monday, the sex worker.
Yeah.
He proved the third charge, which was transporting sex workers across state lines. Remember, he was testifying that sometimes I was hired to go to Miami, sometimes New York. That proved that crime.
Right.
Cassie alone proved the sex trafficking.
Yes.
And we can talk about why I think that. And we can talk about what sex trafficking is so that your followers can be just as smart as mine. And they not running around, telling people the wrong stuff.
Please explain, and also explain to the people. I'm not sure if any of my followers think this, but a lot of people were saying, why couldn't she just say no? And it makes me want to pull these little hairs out of my head. Like when people say dumb like that.
If people just say no to all the bad decisions we made in our lives, we all would be much further, right? We've all made poor decisions at one time of our life. Now, some of us didn't make decisions that alter our lives like Cassie's life has. We heard some really disturbing things that she said she, wanted to walk in front of traffic and all kinds. But victim blaming is really a shame, especially after hearing that he basically drugged them to keep them at bay. He blackmailed them. I mean, she had her career. This is embarrassing stuff. No telling what she was doing on the camera. And if this man was like, don't make me pull my file out on you, it keeps you obedient. That's why you don't walk away. You think you want your mama out there seeing you one day with, we heard what the man said he was doing to her, and that was just one person.
I needed a break from reading it. It was just so disturbing. And
one guy, he was doing these freak off parties every week for years.
Yeah.
See what you was doing for years at these parties? No. So he's blackmailing her. He's controlling her. And then she has this dream about being this singer. And she thinks that this man controls the industry, which he did. And so she has that. Her life, her goals is in this man's hands. But the embarrassment, I want my mama seeing me at a freak off party.
Right. Jeez.
Not your mama either. Not I knew all his mamas. They don't want to see that.
But yeah, so I feel like I was really happy that the prosecution was able to prove a lot of that.
Let's talk about what they have to prove. Let's talk about sex trafficking, guys.
Yeah.
Pull your hair back so you can hear me clearly. Let's talk about what sex trafficking is. So when you have a crime, there's elements, okay? Those are the things you must prove in order to get to that crime. I like to reference the analogy of baking a cake, right? You need flour, you need sugar, you need egg. I don't know how to bake no cake, but we know the basic things we need, right? If you got that, you put it all in the oven, you end up with a cake. Same thing, that is how crimes are done. You need all of these things in order to get to that crime. So for sex trafficking, there are 3 elements, call them ingredients, that you need to get there. And those 3 are the act, the means, and the purpose. Now, the act is actually acting on soliciting the schmecks. Okay? You got to go up to the person. You got to try to get them interested. That's the act. So you got to prove the act. Did they actually try to solicit the schmecks from you? Then the second element is the means they went about doing. Did they coerce you? Did they threaten you? Did they blackmail you? That's the means. They had to go about it in a way that you felt like, do I really have a choice here? Did they threaten you? All of that. And then the purpose to actually do it with you. For sex trafficking. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't got to take nobody nowhere, nothing. They proved all of those things from Cassie's testimony. He definitely acted on it. And how was he doing it? He was definitely threatening her. He was blackmailing her. That's the means that he went about doing it right there. And the purpose was to engage in, that's what sex trafficking is. That's all you need. It's not that difficult, but most people think because it has the word traffic in it, you have to drive people around or transport them. I get that that's confusing, but that's not a requirement.
Right. And I'm just wondering, do we think Cassie is the most important witness in all of this, or is there many more to come, you think?
She's probably the most important witness for the schmecks trafficking.
Right.
She is not the most important witness for the racketeering. The racketeering is the part I'm excited about. Like, schmecks trafficking is so easy to prove. Like,
right.
Yeah, with Cassie already. That racketeering, they got their hands full. They got their hands real full.
Right. So we're in for a long trial, you think?
Oh, yes. I
Oh,
think so. I think we'll be here. I think we should get comfortable at least a month and a half, maybe.
month and a half. Okay.
Could be longer. We could be here till July.
Jesus.
You remember what they just did with Young Thug?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was racketeering. We was there forever.
It felt like forever.
It was what, 4 months?
Okay. Do you think Diddy will get on the stand?
He should not. No.
At
No.
all.
At all. No. No. If he gets on the stand, nail in the coffin. Don't ever do it. No. If you are being charged with the crime, you say nothing.
Gotcha.
Nothing. Because when you get cross-examined, he will never be able to live that down. Never. No, you don't get on the stand when people trying to put you in jail for life.
Okay.
No.
So, like the cross-examination, which is going on right now, have you been looking at the texts?
I have not. I wait for the whole day to end so I can just get all abreast.
Oh,
Maybe you can tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So, oh man, let me look it up right now.
I know what cross-examination is like. It's my favorite part of litigating. So I know they putting their whole foot up her behind, but I mean, that's the job. I know they are. Cross-examination feels horrible. It's not designed to feel good.
Right.
It's not. It's hard, but I know they kicking her butt. I know they are.
And so far, I'm just looking at it. I'm just wondering, like, what are they trying to get at right now? Because it just seems like they're just bringing up, well, these are the text messages where you say, like, oh, well, you wanted to do this, or you were asking for it.
I can tell you what they're doing without even knowing what they're now listen to, because I'm a trial attorney. I know the art of trying a case. The whole point of cross-examination when you are representing the defense is to create doubt. Remember, reasonable doubt is why we're all here. All you got to do is create doubt. If they walk into that jury room and they just like, I don't know, you have to find him not guilty. The only way you can find him guilty is beyond all doubt, reasonable doubt you have in your mind that he did it. All you do is poke holes in the prosecutor's story. You poke holes in her testimony. You make the jury start to doubt her and be like, I don't know about her. That's what their job is. That's what they're doing in there. That's exactly it. I don't even have to know. I do want to know. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go listen. But that's their job, is to create doubt, make the jury question everything that she's been saying.
So after his defense is done with her, does the prosecutor go back, or
they can redirect her, or they can not. They have the option to, though. So if they decide not to, so it's called rehab. Okay, so they get to go first, ask all their questions, then cross happens with the other side, and then if they decide to rehab her, called redirect examination, they're only going to ask her questions to clean up stuff that happened on cross-examination. They're not going to bring up anything new. They're only going to bring up stuff that they want her to clean up from the cross-examination.
Okay.
But they can decide not to and just say no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. Can she be released?
Mm-hmm.
But they should probably be rehabbing her, because I know that's a rough cross-examination going on.
Right. It doesn't feel too bad from what I've been reading all day.
I'm sure it feels bad for her, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm sure it does not feel good.
And I just can't imagine just recounting all of this, like your trauma, and just hearing that she had to take drugs just to like numb herself from it all and what she'd been through. Yeah. And I guess you really can't see it as like morale. You have to look at it as like this side and this side, correct? Like you have to put all that to the side.
Mm-hmm. I could never practice criminal law. I loved it in law school. I love learning it. I think it's a phenomenal area of law. I could not practice. I could. I would be great at it if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. But there's a very interesting story why I would not practice criminal law, but we're going to have to do that on the Patreon.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because that story, too juicy for YouTube. It's way too juicy.
And also, y'all, I'm now opening the floor to the audience. If y'all have any questions while, we have an attorney present, please, I will highlight your comment. And yeah, Lauren will be happy to answer it. So please give a few questions while we're talking.
And while we're waiting for those, since I gave y'all the breakdown on sex trafficking, let's talk about racketeering. Yeah. So, because I want everybody to leave feeling like they graduated from law school when they leave this live, right? So racketeering is, I know people have kind of like the basics. They say it's a criminal enterprise, right? But what does that mean? When I knew he was, let's take a step back. Before the feds charge you, they already have been watching you for years. They don't act like they're prosecutors, but did you watch Power? Was that a show you enjoyed? I know Alex watches it, but
Alex didn't watch Power. I don't really watch it too much.
Anybody who watched Power, the mysteries, y'all know Angela. She was a United States attorney, meaning that she was an attorney for the United States. That means federal crimes. But when you're talking about, burglary, a little pow, those are state crimes. That's just your state district attorney. The state district attorney doesn't get involved until you've already been charged. You come busting in my house, steal all my stuff, I'm going to call the police. They're going to charge whoever did it. And then the DA gets involved. That's how state crimes work. Federal, no. They get a little tip that you've been up to no good, and they just sit back and they watch you. They don't charge you, which is called an indictment. Charge state, indictment federal. They don't indict you until they have what they need. That's why their conviction rate is so high. They've done the work before you even knew they was watching. So when they charged you with racketeering, that told me a couple things. So you need a group for racketeering, okay? Mm-hmm. But you need a head honcho. You need a boss that controls everything. That's Diddy. Okay. Yeah. Then you need all these lower level minions that are doing the operation to facilitate whatever the head honcho wants. So in order to have racketeering, you have to have a group of people. You have to have a boss and the lower people. But in order to prove the racketeering, you have to flip the lower people to snitch on the boss. So that tells me that all Diddy's workers, or at least enough of them, have been cooperating with the feds for a lesser charge, maybe immunity, because you need those people to flip on Diddy in order to have racketeering. So what they're trying to say is Diddy had this criminal enterprise going on, and that the crime was the schmex trafficking. And all of his workers were helping him facilitate this crime. They were reaching out to the people, threatening the people, booking the hotel, booking the flights. I don't know if you remember in, like, I think the original indictment, they said they were setting up the lighting in the room so he could see it all good, and they was going out getting the baby all the heat. They were a part of the criminal scheme to get the sex trafficking going. So that's what they have to prove with that racketeering, that he had a whole enterprise going. He was the boss, and all these people were working for him to do the sex trafficking. That's how you get to racketeering.
Right. And then I heard someone say, like, the defense is just trying to prove that, oh, this is just what's going on in his bedroom. He's not doing any crime. This is all consent. And I just don't see that at all.
That's their job. That's their job. Their job is to minimize all of what the jury is going to hear. They're supposed to say, he's unlikable. He beat this woman up. Domestic violence, we don't negate that. He's also a freak. You're going to hear a bunch of stuff in his bedroom that you might not do in your bedroom. But being a freak is not sex trafficking. Being a freak is not racketeering. That's their job to say that, right? That's their job. Their job is to create doubt. They don't have to prove anything. That's for the state to do. They're there to poke holes so the jury can go back there and be like, I'm confused. Because if you're confused, you have to find him not guilty. That's what they just confusing. When you are trying to win a trial and you know your client is trash, just muddy the whole thing. Just throw mud in all of it. Confuse everybody. Because once you confuse everybody, they have to find them not guilty. But I'm not confused.
Right.
I think the state's doing a great job, but I also know what these crimes are.
Okay. Let me just highlight a super chat. Thank you, Robert. Cassie is so brave. Diddy is a depraved, demonic, excuse cut a human being. Go under the jail. I totally agree with you. I can say that. I want to say some other things, but I'm gonna save it for Pop Rose, where we, actually, can read. Ashley Nicole says, I wonder who will be a character witness for Diddy. Now, character witnesses, do you think character witnesses will even be brought on in this trial?
If the defense wants to play on any heartstrings, they possibly should. I don't think it'll help. But I mean, they're there to do a job. I think their job is to do anything possible to help their client. But I don't think Mary J. Blige is the best character witness. I think in order to make the jury feel any sort of bad for him, they got to use his kids. And I don't know if they should use his kids.
Yeah, that's...
Because imagine there's mothers or fathers at the same, you got the kid up there testifying, this is the best dad in the world. And, then all the parents start to be like, uh-oh, I don't think his friends or colleagues are going to be the best character with it. I would just be looking at them like, what you here for? But if the kids get up there, I'm going to be like, oh, Lord.
But then can't the prosecution go up there and ask their own questions?
Yes, indeed. And that's why you have to be careful who you put up there.
Right. Ooh, yeah. Spring Rain asks, should more male jurors than female be worrying?
It's a male defendant. Usually remember, it's supposed to be a jury of your peers. So if they did it right, if his attorneys did it right, then you should have more males on a jury in his age bracket. That's his peers. They don't want women up there.
Right.
Now, since I wasn't there listening during voir dire, I don't know what these men said. I remember juror number 1. When I made my video, I don't remember what his demographics was, but I definitely felt like he was picked by the prosecutors, right? The prosecutor's gonna want very intelligent people, but I'm sure they picked almost all those women. But no, the fact that there's more male jurors
doesn't matter
at all. I'm not concerned. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's his peers. It's supposed to be middle-aged black men. They wasn't all black. Most of them was white. But you get what you get, right? You got to deal with what you got. But yeah, I actually think the jury is quite interesting. I think they did a good job.
Okay. Yeah, everyone's just tentatively listening right now. I'm so surprised we don't have that many questions right now.
Because they shocked. Because they just learned sex trafficking isn't what they thought it was.
Right. Anything like Any other takeaways like from the trial right now?
I can't wait to see who they introduce for the racketeering, because you have to show the criminal enterprise, which means that he has to put some workers up there, some employees of Diddy. And that I'm really looking forward to the racketeering part. The first witness really dealt with the transporting Schmeck's workers across state lines. He did that. Cassie did it with the Schmeck's trafficking. I'm ready for the next witness.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get down to the racketeering, because that is going to be insane. That is the hardest one they have to prove, and that's the one I'm concerned about, because I haven't heard what they have with that one just yet. But I think we're going to get guilty for the Schmeck's workers and the Schmeck's trafficking. But that racketeering, they better come with it. But another thing I just was feeling like, oh my goodness, was his daughters. You know, they got up and ran out the courtroom a couple days ago. Yes, when Cassie was up there, day one, they got up and ran out. I mean, that's their dad. I don't want to hear about my dad's nothing. And right. I feel like even though they're 18, we just not supposed to know certain things about our parents. We just not supposed to know certain things about our parents. And I don't even know if he's father of the year. He might be just as wild and crazy to them. But at the same time, I don't think they know about his sexual activity that they're about to really learn about. But yeah, they got up and ran out. Day one of was it the guy? When that whole the mouth situation came up is when they walked out.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're there because the defense told them they had to be there. They're trying to humanize Diddy. They want him to look like a family man. Look at his 6'7" army of kids back here. They got him dressed like Urkel. Did you see his outfit?
I did.
He got glasses on. He got gray hair. He has a cardigan. He looks like an older Urkel. That's all intentional. They're trying to not make this man look like the monster that he is. You got his whole army of kids behind him, his mama there. So it's all a part of tactics to play on the jury's heartstrings. It's all good lawyering going on. All of it.
So we have some questions.
Okay.
What do you think of the defense having a female do the opening statement?
I don't think I have an opinion that she was female. I think the opening statement is important. It's not the most important thing in the trial. It's not. I don't know if there was a reason or a tactic to make sure it was female. She could have just been the best attorney to deliver a bomb opening statement, because that's an art and a skill. Everybody can't do it. That might have just been her best attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they did it on purpose because she was a female. The most important part of the trial is over.
Mm-hmm.
Your jury. The most important part of the trial is already done.
Interesting. That is the most important thing, like picking a jury.
Most important. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I think she probably was just when you're doing an opening statement, you're telling a story, and most women are better storytellers. So she just probably was better at it than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Mm-hmm. Do we know what sentence the prosecutors are seeking? They're seeking life.
We don't. That's just what the charge is. They haven't released what they're seeking. We know that they did offer him a plea deal, but we never knew what that was. But as far as, so when you have these punishments and the law has these ranges of, a minimum and then a maximum. Maximum, he's facing life because of the racketeering, but the state has not told us what they're actually seeking.
Is there a reason? Is that normal?
They're keeping their business to themselves because this is all a part of trial. If the defense doesn't know what they're seeking, it's kind of hard to prepare. The more information you give someone, the more they can prepare to beat you.
Gotcha.
So you keep your mouth shut and you surprise them at trial and be like, you didn't know I had all these bag of tricks? So they keep their mouth shut on purpose.
Do you think the workers for the racketeering they bring up will be a surprise to Diddy? Or will his team already know who's coming up? Is there any chance he could be blindsided?
He should already know who's coming up. You have to turn over a witness list before trial. Can he be blindsided? Yes. Anything is possible at trial. Let's just say one of the workers never was able to get in contact with, wasn't picking up the phone. They never made it to the witness list. But let's just say the worker has been listening to the trial like us, and then all of a sudden today want to be so honorable, and they reach out to the prosecution and say, I want to testify. That person didn't make the list at first. So they could waltz in the courtroom, and the prosecutors would have to explain to the judge how this person was not on the witness list, that this person just came out of thin air in the middle of the night, and get the court's permission because they're not on the witness list. It can happen. It has happened. So anything is possible at trial, but they should know a good bit of who's going to testify. You have to turn over a witness list. But if somebody falls out the sky today or tomorrow, it can happen.
Could you explain the whole thing with Cassie's husband and him potentially being a witness? I didn't really understand that.
So they did not want him in the courtroom because the defense brought up a motion and said that they wanted him to be excluded during her testimony because he could be a potential witness. The problem was that they were only trying to exclude him while she was there. If you are a potential witness, every jurisdiction, every state calls it something different. My jurisdiction calls it invoking the rule. Sounds crazy. But that basically tells the court, I don't want nobody who's potentially going to testify to be listening to what's going on, because that could potentially taint their testimony if they're hearing what everybody else got to say. So what you would do at the beginning of trial or hearing is say, Your Honor, I would like to invoke the rule, or whatever your jurisdiction calls it. And then the judge will say, raise your hand if you're a potential witness, explain to them you're going to go out in the hallway, don't talk to nobody, don't read nothing, and we're going to call you when we need you, goodbye. That's what happens. So he was in there when she was about to testify, and they were like, I want to invoke the rule because we might call him as a witness. The thing is, why would he be on the witness list? Let's not forget who Cassie's husband is.
Right. The trainer.
The trainer. He wanted Cassie body to stay the same, keep her this cute little petite thing. So he hired her a trainer to keep her body the same. And then she ran off and married the man. So he's an employee or former employee of Diddy's. So he could potentially be called as a witness for the racketeering. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So that's why they wanted him out. They're not calling that man as a witness. But I mean, good lawyering, it's their job to do foolishness like this. They're just doing their job.
Someone asked, will we be hearing from Dawn Richard? And I mean, I would love for her to be there. Like,
if she's somebody,
yeah, somebody from Kennedy Kane. I want somebody.
That they don't need them because they would be there to talk about just how awful of a person he is. But I don't know how valuable they would be to proving schmex trafficking or racketeering. What would they have to give? They would just be up there talking about how much of an asshole Diddy is. But that's not the crime. Right. So what testimony can they provide to help us prove racketeering or help us prove schmex trafficking? If you can't provide any testimony to help us get there, what you up there for?
True.
We already know Diddy's an ass. We don't need nobody else to get up there and say that. I don't know how their testimony goes to one of the elements that they have to prove. Dawn could be one of the witnesses, but I don't know why she would be.
Interesting question. Are all the charges federal to where Trump could pardon him?
I don't know. All the charges are federal. They are federal. But I don't know. There are rules to what a president can pardon or not. And I just haven't looked into if the president can pardon racketeering. But all the charges are federal. We wouldn't be in federal court unless they were all federal charges.
Yeah.
But yeah, the president does have pardoning power, but it ain't blanket. They can't just pardon any old thing.
That's what I thought.
They can't do whatever they want. And I don't know if racketeering and schmex trafficking is on the list of what they could do.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is the biggest trial since the O.J. Simpson trial? As far as like just as entertainment goes.
I think so.
Interesting. And I feel like when I was young, that OJ trial lasted so long. I don't know the exact time it lasted, but it felt like it lasted a year.
It's different though, because people were waiting with bated breath because there was no social media. Like they were in front of the TV, in front of their radios. Like they had to get their bits and pieces of what was going on straight from legit media. Today with Diddy's trial, everybody thinks they know everything because everything's so readily available. Everything's on social media. Everybody has such a big opinion before you actually got to trial day. I do think the trial is just as big. I just think the reactions are different because of just how readily available it is for everybody to have an opinion right now. They didn't have all that. It was OJ's turn.
Okay. Did a key witness really disappear, or do key witnesses disappear in general? Is that normal?
It's normal all the time. You think you have a witness and all of a sudden you don't. I think it's quite interesting that they fell off the face of this earth, right?
Right.
I do. Because I don't know about you, Chris, but I'm not going to prison. Okay? I'm not going to jail. And if there's a federal subpoena for me, I'm showing up. Like that witness could be in huge trouble. Huge trouble. So even if Diddy flipped them and gave them a bunch of money, there ain't enough money you can give me to be dealing with some charges. And I'm sure charges are coming because I'm sure there was a federal subpoena for them to testify.
Right.
So I hope they got enough money to be on the run.
So, y'all, this is the last call for any other questions. We're going to be concluding in a second. Also, just thank you so much for just being here, by the way, just to break some of the things down that, if anybody had questions, for. So you think so far that both sides are doing a great job?
They're doing a great job. The defense is doing a good job at confusing and just, first of all, they also have another job to protect Diddy's right to an appeal. Okay. Gotcha. And there's certain things us as trial attorneys have to do in order to protect our clients. So when you hear him, there was a couple motions that people were like, that didn't make no sense. Why does he want Cassie's husband out the courtroom? Makes no sense. Did you hear about the motion that they also introduced to have her already sitting in the jury box when the witness box when the jury came in? You didn't hear about that? Okay, let me tell you. And so before they got started that day, you can just bring motions up before you get started. Okay. So they brought a motion that said, Your Honor, I would like for her to already be sitting in place before everybody comes in. And the reason why they said that is because they didn't want her coming in with her big old pregnant belly and the jury seeing her and being like, because pregnancy, especially, women that are further along, invoke a certain emotion out of people. And you got this beautiful woman, she's pregnant, and they didn't want the jury to feel sorry for her. They wanted her behind already sitting there, and they didn't see all that. So they wanted her already sitting in the witness box before everybody came in. The judge told them no. Then she came on in her brown dress looking all cute, right? Yeah. But somebody might have been like, that was stupid. It's not stupid. It's their job. Because we know Diddy's probably going to be found guilty. And they are trying to protect their client for an appeal. So you have to ask the court for things, even if you know the judge is going to say no. You have to bring it up because when you get to your appeal, the appellate court is not going to be watching this video, Chris. They have to pull the record. And if it never happened, what can the appellate court see? So you have to bring it up so that they can read, the defense tried this, the defense tried that. We brought all these motions. Look. And the judge just said no to everything. You have to do it. They're trying to make sure their client has the best chance at an appeal. So you're going to hear a bunch of foolishness that the defense is going to ask for. It's all trial tactics. They're trying to set him up for an appeal when he loses.
So I do have one silly question on my part. Like during the cross-examination, like you have the prosecutor yelling objection, like I would say at least 7 times when I was like reading it. Like what's an example of like just a few maybe you can call objection, and then they'll be like, overruled or something like that.
I'll give you an example right now. Do you have the time?
Like the time.
Do you have the time?
Oh yeah, it's 2:51.
Objection non-responsive. My question was not what time was it. My question was, do you have the time?
Oh, it could be something that petty. Wow.
Prior to yes or a no. And when people start rambling, you put them back in their place.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're only supposed to answer the question being asked. So when people are on the witness stand and they're trying to, especially during cross-examination, because you're getting beat up, you're trying to explain yourself. You're like, well, no, I didn't mean it. That's why I love that's why it's my favorite part, because I get to control you. I get to control your speech. I get to paint things in the way I want them painted. So it's rough for who's ever going through it. But yes, there's so many reasons why an objection could be called during cross-examination, because it's not natural to answer questions that way. You want to talk, right?
Yeah.
But not when I got you on my witness stand. You're going to do what I tell you to do.
Yeah, I think some people in the chat were just like, oh, look, I did not know this at all.
You also can't say things that someone else told you unless they're a party. Well, at least I'm talking about Texas rules of civil procedure. But she can't get up there and say, oh, Mary called me, Mary J. Blige. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Now she could say Diddy told me because he's a party in the case. But saying what somebody else said, But yeah, there's plenty of things that people mess up on during testimony. That's why prepping your witness is key. Because when you're trying to testify, you don't want someone screaming objections at you. It's going to throw you off. You're already nervous sitting up there. So you're supposed to prep them in a way where they are answering correctly, so the other person doesn't have as many opportunities to scream objection. And you have to object because you're trying to preserve the record. If it was never done, the appellate court will never see it. They won't know it happened. You have to object. Even if you think the court's going to overrule it, you still have to do your job.
Okay. Let me see if we have any more questions after that. Okay, so why do you think they didn't give him a drug charge as well? And I'm also wondering, why didn't they give him like an R charge also? Like
because it's for the R charge, that's state. It's not there's no federal charges for R.
Okay.
For the drugs, they might not have had what they needed. Because remember, the feds watch you before they charge you. They might not have had everything they needed to know that they can prove it. The thing is not if he's doing it. We know he's doing it. It's just, do you have the evidence to prove it? And maybe the drug evidence was maybe just a little weaker.
Okay.
Because I'm sure if they could have, they would have, right?
Right.
They already hit him with the highest thing to get him on, which is racketeering. So if I'm sure if they had the drugs, they would have did it.
So I'll make this the last question, y'all, but this is in another case. But if you know it, let me know. But I know it's not Diddy, but can you ask Lauren about Tory Lanez new evidence?
What evidence he got? I just heard about him getting stabbed up. I didn't hear nothing about new evidence.
Yeah, so they had this press conference saying that the bodyguard actually heard Meg's friend say that she shot Meg and not Tory. And I'm just like, I just read, I forgot where I read it from, but they said they still haven't even submitted it to the court at all. So it's just like,
appeals are hard. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
It is your best bet to get the outcome you want at trial, because your chances of getting an appeal granted are very, very slim. Most appeals are not granted. They're not. And you have to show error and a whole bunch of other things for your case to even be considered, right? You can't just say, I want an appeal because I don't like the outcome. You have to show that something legally incorrect happened. And just because you didn't call that witness at trial does not mean somebody did something wrong. Mm-hmm. You got to put on the best case you have when you are at the trial level. You have to, because your chances of getting an appeal is very slim. Mm-hmm. But this man fighting for his life, that's what he needs to be concerned about.
So throwing some percentages out of there. Just give me a percentage of an appeal for this Diddy case.
I haven't seen anybody do anything wrong yet. So I haven't personally seen anything that would trigger an appeal, but just in reality, I would say somewhere between 70 and 80% of appeals that get requested get denied.
Okay.
But judges make mistakes, lawyers make mistakes. So those 20% of people who get a yes, still, I also don't think people understand what getting an appeal granted means. It does not mean you're not guilty. A lot of times when your appeal gets granted, they're saying the judge did something wrong or an attorney did something wrong. And all they do is maybe say retry the case. Get you a second bite at the apple. They could find you guilty all over again.
Right.
You get to go home when your appeal gets granted. A lot of times when they get granted, they just say try the case again.
And I guess just last but not least, percentages on a guilty and not guilty verdict so far from what you've seen.
So far, I've heard everything I needed to hear to be guilty on the transported schmex workers. And so far, I've heard everything I needed to hear to know that he's guilty for schmex trafficking. But I don't know about the racketeering just yet.
Okay.
We don't have no witnesses for the racketeering just yet. But the thing is, a lot of people don't know those elements that are required for schmex trafficking. If the state is doing their job, that should have been in the opening statement. Explain to people, we know that it's called schmex trafficking. We know it has the word traffic in it, but forget what you've heard. You don't have to transport anyone anywhere. We don't know why people come up with these words and make it sound confusing, right? Just like we don't know why we have a P in raspberry. We don't know why. We don't know why there's the English language is the way it is. We know it has the word traffic in there, but you don't have to transport a thing. We know the English language can be confusing. But you're going to learn a lot about schmex trafficking today. And I'm going to tell you this. That's how the opening statement should have went. So they could already knew going into the trial what to look for. Did they do that? I don't know. I hope they did.
Right.
But the jury's going to get what's called a charge sheet when they go back to deliberate. It's going to tell them what schmex trafficking. It's going to tell them all the elements, what they have to, like, what are the elements to the crime for all of them. And then they should have that as a guide to make a decision.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this 101. I appreciate
no problem.
Maybe we could come back later on in the middle once we get, all the, I guess, the tea about the case, like hearing and everything else. Where can everyone follow you?
Well, if you are in Dallas and you have a family law matter, I am a family law trial attorney in Dallas, Texas. My website is laurenTheLawyer.com. If you want to follow me on all my socials, Lauren_the_lawyer on Instagram, TikTok, and if you want to follow my YouTube channel, Serving Scandalous.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for being here and just lending your, expertise to this. And hopefully we will see you soon on my channel as well as Pop Rose.
Yes. We were supposed to do a thing. What? I think Alex even came up with the name. No, you did. It was not playing in court or something like that. It was a little segment.
Yes.
We were supposed to do that. No time like the present, because we're going to be here for a while. We're going to be here a while.
Yes, because there are so many different court cases going on right now. Look,
everybody in trouble.
But we don't play in court. Look, I'm still down for that. So yeah, we'll talk about that off camera.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope they left learning something today.
Yes. So with that, y'all, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see y'all soon.